elements in the Sam Fisher fantasy that revolved around the Sam Fisher Splinter Cell gameplay of infiltration, of stealth against AIs. Those elements, we had to interpret them in a way that would fit a PvP game like Rainbow Six Siege. We're bringing this camera intel aspect, the fact that Sam has more intel than his opponent, that he can outsmart them. So that was the first step, trying to get an intel tool on attack for Sam that would feel interesting. And that's when we came up with this idea of just, how can I look in the next room? How can I have an idea what's happening on the other side of the wall? And that's where we came up with the idea of the camera drilling through the wall to give us information on the other side. When we started using that concept, which we felt was awesome and very natural in Siege, and as well also very Sam Fisher, we wanted to also have this gameplay that is so common to every iteration of Sam, where you are in those intel tools, but you don't just collect information, you also wait for the right time to act. And that's when we came up with the idea of this one laser shot that the camera has, because the fantasy of having a gadget embedded in the camera was strong, and also since the laser is visible and make noise, it is relevant for Zero to actually look at the defending team and maybe wait for them to be far away to use their gadget to not betray the location of your camera. And that gameplay of being in a cam and watching the defender pass by and wait for the right time to use the gadget is, to us, very Splinter Cell. Like the core role of Sam here is definitely going to be intel gatherer. And as a result, one of the parties thrives very much, like he's really good at flank watching. Flank watching is really a strong suit. At the same time, we made a kit for him that would allow him to get rid of a lot of utilities. Defending team does not have access to IQ, so we could not afford to have those cameras being as subtle as Valkyrie, for example, and we had to make them more visible. So when they land, they make a distinct thud. They are bigger than a Valkyrie cam, they are a very distinctive shape, they can decal around it, so if you look for it as a defender, you should be able to find it. And it might be difficult to catch them with a regular mute jammer. Mute jammer are efficient at catching drones because you can funnel them through doors, drone holes, etc. So it's a pretty great way to go around a mute Mozi setup, for example. It is still a projectile. Jaeger and Wamai will interact with it just the same, which, depending on how you see things, might be a counter to Zero himself or to Wamai and Jaeger based on how much utility you bring. We're bringing a new weapon, and not just any new weapon. We're bringing the ST3000K, which is for us the iconic weapon of Splinter Cell. You're gonna recognize it right away by like the way it looks, the way it feels, and yeah, it's pretty great. It's definitely for us part of the Splinter Cell package, and it was really enjoyable to have that. But we didn't stop there. Like, we wanted to give you an option that would come maybe at a surprise and something very enjoyable for our community, and that would fit with what we see in this character, and that option is the MP7. This time with magnification.
There is definitely a buzz and a lot of research that went into it. Like, we put a lot of research into all our operators, but this is like, it was already an established character. So we had to go through and pick and choose, okay, what are we keeping? What are we redesigning? What is essential to the core? So it was a little bit intimidating because he's such a big character. We have an in-house Sam Fisher expert, so we made sure I checked in with him pretty much every step of the way. So Sam Fisher's new codename Zero, it's a sign of respect. Zero and Zero Alpha are actually call signs given to the net controller or commander. So it indicates his seniority. Harry is a psychologist. He doesn't have that military experience that Sam does. And coming in as an instructor, he's going to teach the rest of the guys a thing or two. So he's our first member of the ROS, Rainbow Operational Staff. My headcanon is always just Sam Fisher sitting in the back of the room with a coffee. He just doesn't say anything. He just looks at you and then walks away. Just pure judgment.